Chapter 1976. Battle Between Reverent Gods 6. That's right, little tiger could speak. However, the spirit beasts had gotten used to dwelling inside the forest of heaven's trial, so they rarely used human speech to communicate. After all, there was no way a reverent god-level spirit beast did not know human speech. After learning that Yun Yueching was also inside the forest of heaven's trial and was seriously injured, Yun Luo Feng abandoned the battlefield and made little tiger take her there quickly. As for those reverent gods, Yun Xiao would take care of them soon. This is the antidote grass, feed it to her first to temporarily control the poison. If we wanted to expel the poison from her system, I'm afraid more time is needed. Yun Luo Feng frowned. Yun Yueching, oh, that's not right, Bai King's poison was a bit complicated. It was the most difficult poison she had encountered so far, so there was no way she could remove it entirely in a short amount of time. This poison needed at least half a month to remove. After feeding the antidote grass to Bai Ling, Yun Luo Feng swiftly pulled out her silver needles and stuck them into her chest. Then, she dragged Little Bug out of God Code space and said, "Give me a drop of essence blood." What? Little Bug turned pale with fright and feebly said, "Mistress, you know well the importance of the essence blood to us dragons. Extracting a drop of essence blood, it takes several months before I can recover." "You are a member of the ancestral dragon tribe, right?" Yun Luo Feng dryly asked. Alarm flashed through Little Bug's eyes. "Why are you asking this? Do you want to return to your true tribe?" Little Bug was the venerable ancestor of the dragon tribe, but it did not mean the dragon tribe originated from him, it meant that Little Bug came from the ancestral dragon tribe. To normal dragons, any ancestral dragon was their venerable ancestor. Little Bug grew more alarmed. "Mistress, clearly state what you want to say. You will really help me return to the ancestral dragon tribe." "That's right, I wager that the ancestral dragon tribe migrated following the change that happened in the spirit god continent many years ago. Give me a drop of essence blood, and I will help you return to the ancestral dragon tribe. This is a fair trade without any deception." Faced with the woman's calm expression, Little Bug's eyes brightened. As long as he could return to the ancestral dragon tribe, he was willing to give 10 drops of essence blood, let alone 1. "Okay, it's a deal." Little Bug eagerly shook his little butt and bit into his tongue, and with a push of his energy, a drop of essence blood moved out of his mouth and slowly floated to the mouth of Bai Ling. With this drop of essence blood to recover her vitality, Bai Ling's complexion gradually regained its color. Rivulets of black energy also followed the needles and floated out. HN. Bai Ling released a light groan and slowly opened her eyes. The second she opened her eyes, she could feel a warm tongue licking her face, causing her expression to drastically transform. "I didn't die." If she did not recover her memory, Bai Ling did not want to die. But after recovering her memory, she would remember the scene of her husband's violent death, and her continual survival merely deepened her pain. "Could it be that you want to end everything with death? Do you think you will be absolved by dying? No, you do obtain freedoms by dying, but you pain the people who are alive. Grandfather's hair has whitened over the years because of you, and second uncle has also lived in pain for so many years." Yun Luo Feng watched Bai Ling's anguished expression and continued, "Qi Su was also expelled from the Qi family, and Qi Ling claims that she will come to the Forest of Heaven's trial to look for you when she's strong enough. So many people are concerned about you and care for you. Yet, all you want to do is to absolve yourself, and you didn't consider the family that's still alive." Chapter 1977. Mother and Daughter Reuniting 1. Yun Luo Feng's words elicited a shudder from Bai Ling. She dumbfoundedly looked up, a beautiful and wicked face entering her vision. The woman's clothes were white like snow, and her facial features were very similar to hers but were more domineering and evil. Bai Ling hurriedly covered her mouth, tears running down her face. Over these years, even though she had lost her memory, she still remembered that there was a daughter waiting for her at home. However, now, her daughter was standing in front of her. She did not dare to believe it. "You are Fenger." Yun Luo Feng's face gradually softened. Her words confirmed her identity. "Mother, grandfather and second uncle. They are both waiting at home for you. If they learn you're still alive, they will certainly be very happy. Can you bear not letting them see you for the rest of their lives?" Bai Ling put her hand down, tears freely flowing down. She suddenly stood up from the ground and charged over, tightly embracing young Luo Feng. Fenger, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. These past years, mother didn't go back to look at you. Ever since father and mother left, did they bully you? She was a bawling mess. She did not know how her daughter spent her days after she left for so many years. As soon as she thought of this, guilt would encircle her heart. It was a long while before she released her eyes teary. Were your grandfather and second uncle all right these past years? Back then, second uncle thought you and father had died, so he worked hard to raise his strength to avenge you. However, because he was too talented, he attracted a prodigal who came to challenge him. He defeated that prodigal, but it courted the revenge of that prodigal's family. Due to those people's revenge, second uncle's strength was crippled and he became disabled. To survive, he faked his death and hid inside a secret room devoid of daylight for more than 10 years. Young Luo Feng's voice caused Bai Ling's lips to start trembling. Her heart was mercilessly gripped, painful beyond words. His brother-in-law was such a noble and virtuous person, what kind of environment caused him to live in such a humiliating fashion? He merely did not want his father to see a child die before himself again. Fenger, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. She really did not know that the Yun family suffered such a large misfortune these past years. You can't be blamed for this since you lost your memory. Yun Luo Feng thought of something and continued, right, since you're still alive, then father, is he still alive as well? Bai Ling froze, her beautiful face ashen. She closed her eyes, unspeakable pain brimming from her features. Your father, he is dead. She saw that man have his heart pierced by thousands of arrows in front of her with her own eyes. She also watched him breathe his last breath. He died, but she wafted through life until now and even forgot him. Young Luo Feng's heart contracted. She watched Bai Ling's curled up figure and slowly walked up, gently embracing the incredibly fragile woman before her. Father is still alive. Bai Ling was startled and looked up at young Luo Feng, astonished. He is still alive. He just can't appear before us. He is certainly in another place, walking with us. When people died, as long as their spirit was not destroyed, they did not truly die. Chapter 1978. Mother and daughter reuniting 2. Otherwise, she would not have been able to come to this world from Hua Xia. She was only able to transmigrate due to Xiao Mo. Yun Yang would not have been so lucky, so she could only use these kinds of words to console Bai Ling. Otherwise, she did not know whether Bai Ling could persevere and continue living. Fenger, you don't need to comfort mother. Bai Ling stood up from the ground. If I didn't see you, mother would follow your father and leave so that he wouldn't be lonely by himself. However, in this lifetime, mother owes you too much already, so how could I abandon you again and leave? Bai Ling bitterly chuckled. Your father and I, we were simply not fated. When Bai Ling initially recovered her memories, she could not bear the pain of her loved one leaving, but she had recovered already. Regardless of how much pain infested her heart, she had to persevere for the family members still alive. Right, Fenger, why did you appear here? Bai Ling could not help but ask when she realized this. I came to find a friend, young Luo Feng smiled, but I didn't expect I would find you. Finding Bai Ling was a pleasant surprise. All along, young Luo Feng never expected Bai Ling to still be alive. Fenger, you can cultivate? Bai Ling asked in disbelief. She could feel the spirit energy faintly rolling inside young Luo Feng's body. Under Bai Ling's anticipating gaze, young Luo Feng nodded. Seeing her confirmation, joy flashed through Bai Ling's heart. It's wonderful that you can cultivate. Right, how are the enemies who harmed your second uncle? As Bai Ling said this, a cold light surfaced in Bai Ling's eyes. She looked like a celestial immortal with her floating white clothes, but her murderous aura was potent. They are already dead. Young Luo Feng shrugged. Also, second uncle has a second aunt now. I also have an adorable female cousin. It's unfortunate that you weren't able to be present at their marriage ceremony. Young Luo Feng's words caused Bai Ling to feel sincere happiness. Qingye is married. That's great. It looks like it's time for me to make up a present for my niece. It's not a big deal that I wasn't able to go to their wedding. It will be enough that I can go to your marriage ceremony in the future. Hearing this, young Luo Feng's eyebrow raised. She was too embarrassed to tell Bai Ling that she was married as well. Little tiger, Bai Ling lightly called, her face suddenly turning grave. Little tiger made a call in response and laid beside Bai Ling's feet, obedient like a little cat. Fenger, little tiger is the king of the forest of heaven's trial. I rescued him by chance and he has been following me since. Later, I will give little tiger and all the spirit beasts inside the forest of heaven's trial to you. You will be their only master. Bai Ling might be very gentle when facing young Luo Feng, but when she was ordering little tiger, her face was very solemn. Little tiger, if you want to repay your life debt to me, then use your life to protect Fenger well from now on. Your master will be her solely from here on out, do you understand? Little tiger lowly called and licked the back of young Luo Feng's hand, as though he was expressing his goodwill. Bai Ling inwardly relaxed. Although you can cultivate now, mother still can't help but be worried about you. With the spirit beasts of the forest of heaven's trial now though, they will be enough to assure your safety in the entire Fengyun continent. Chapter 1979, Mother and Daughter Reuniting 3. The blood-striped lion was at Reverend God level already, and there were very few other Reverend God levels who could defeat him. With his protection, young Luo Feng would not be in danger for certain. This way, even if her poison erupted again, she would not need to worry about her daughter's life being in danger. Suddenly, cold laughter shot from the sky. When Bai Ling heard it, her expression abruptly shifted. Ho ho, I was curious earlier about why someone looked so much like you. It appears that there is a reason behind your resemblance. A man slowly descended from the sky with his hands behind his back. His creepy eyes eerily watched Bai Ling. Junior sister, no wonder you were unmoved despite how much I tried to gain your favor. It turns out you're married already. The man slowly walked toward Bai Ling, his chin held up high. Why can that man possess you, but I can't? I originally thought you were very virtuous, which is why you ignored my goodwill. It turns out you are nothing but a slut who has climbed into another person's bed. Swish. Suddenly, a light shot toward him head-on. The man sharply turned to the side to dodge it, and the sword light slammed into the tree behind him with a boom. The entire tree trunk was leveled. Young Luo Feng's white figure was beautiful like snow. In contrast to Bai Ling's transient feeling, this woman was more evil. Her face was haughty as she looked down on the world. My mom was uninterested in you because you aren't as outstanding as my father, of course. The man narrowed his eyes, his killing intent apparent. I'm not as outstanding as that man. What a joke. I am the president of the Freedom Alliance. The entire Fengyun continent will belong to me in the future. Yet, you tell me I'm not as outstanding as a dead person. Oh, young Luo Feng raised her eyebrows. I'm sorry, I just happen to be interested in the Fengyun continent as well, so I'm afraid you won't become the master of the Fengyun continent. Instantly, the man's aura ruptured, his eyes containing a storm as he icily glared at young Luo Feng. Girl, you want to die. A cyclone whipped around his figure, and the entire sky turned gloomy, gray clouds taking over the blue sky. Fenger, careful. Bai Ling immediately stood in front of young Luo Feng and fearlessly looked at the man in front of them. What feat is it to threaten a child? You can't even win against me, yet you dare to compare yourself to my husband. The man loudly laughed, wild winds abruptly rose, the world's colors changing. I can't win against you. Junior sister, if it's truly like that, why don't we fight right now? A derisive smile turned up on Bai Ling's lips. If you could actually beat me, why would you have poisoned me? After my poison is resolved, I will make you kneel and beg. Her poison is resolved. The man smiled in disdain. There was no way she could resolve her poison in her lifetime. Of course, the man also knew Bai Ling was purposefully spurring him on to make him leave this place. Unfortunately, he would not take the bait. Bai Ling, if you want your daughter to live, then leave with me. Otherwise, I can squeeze her to death single-handedly. The man arrogantly lifted his chin and expressionlessly said. Bai Ling's face sunk again. She sent a look to little tiger on the side, hinting him to hurry and leave with young Luo Feng later. If he was the only one here, perhaps little tiger could still risk it. However, Bai Ling's eyes narrowed as she peered at the several other people descending from the sky. Chapter 1980, Mother and Daughter Reuniting 4. Reverend God level. These people are actually all Reverend God levels. Little Tiger wailed in anguish, reluctance to separate clear in his eyes as he watched Bai Ling. Bai Ling's expression was very decisive. Her eyes were as clear as water, but she was icily staring at the man. You ended up using the forbidden technique left behind by Master. Don't you know the consequences of this secret technique? Although the recipients of the technique can break through to Reverend God level in a short amount of time, they will die after 3 years. This was why Master did not mass-produce Reverend God level experts back then. In order to avoid harming innocents. Her words were also meant for the group of people behind the man. Unexpectedly though, their expression did not change. It was as though they did not hear her words. Bai Ling's heart sunk little by little. Little Tiger finally made up his mind. He walked over to Yun Luofeng and made a low call. However, Yun Luofeng walked around Little Tiger and leisurely walked toward Bai Ling. Go to the back and watch. Bai Ling was taken back, anxiety in her eyes. Fenger, what are you planning to do? Leave it to me. Yun Luofeng's expression was very determined. I won't permit anyone to humiliate you. Her voice was like a hammer, fiercely pounding on Bai Ling's heart. Because I won't permit anyone to humiliate you, even if I know I'm not a match for them, I absolutely won't back down. Fenger, don't make trouble. Bai Ling quickly regained her senses and hurriedly pressed down on her shoulder. Leave with Little Tiger. With his strength, he can safely escort you out. There's time to avenge Mother in the future. Yun Luofeng placed her hand over the back of Bai Ling's hand and gently pushed it away. I said, I won't allow anyone to humiliate you. Just like all those years ago, it was clearly another kingdom's emperor who tyrannically took a liking to Bai Ling, but the populace vilified Bai Ling as another Helen of Troy. In order to repress those voices, she had no scruples against initiating a slaughter and caused blood to run through the entire imperial city like rivers, all because she would not allow anyone to humiliate her. Fenger. Watching Yun Luofeng walk toward the man, Bai Ling's heart tightened. She wanted to run up but just happened to stumble and nearly fell on the ground, and a sense of powerlessness invaded her heart. If it were not for this damn poison, she would not be at a disadvantage. Girl. The man looked down on Yun Luofeng and snickered. I won't be merciful simply because of your mother. I also won't spare you simply because you're my mother's senior brother, Yun Luofeng retorted, sharp-tongued. Instantly, the man's gaze darkened, an eerie light glowing in his eyes. Humph, I would like to see how you won't spare me. The second he spoke the last word, he started moving toward Yun Luofeng. The Reverend God level experts behind him stirred restlessly but were halted by the man's harsh voice. She's nothing but a little girl, this lord alone is enough, so as to avoid other people saying this lord used numbers to bully someone. The man stopped holding his aura back. Strong winds whipped around unrestrained, carrying an oppressive presence. The woman's expression did not shift in the face of such strong winds. Her dark eyes were calm, and a layer of dragon-scaled armor enveloped her skin. The snow-white armor emitted an icy glow under the wild winds. Bai Ling opened her mouth in shock as she watched Yun Luofeng, her eyes brimming with astonishment. Heavenly God level. Her daughter had reached heavenly God level at such a young age. But a heavenly god was merely a heavenly god. The man in front of them was equal to 10 whole heavenly gods. Chapter 1981. Mother and Daughter Reuniting 5. How could a pearl bead dare to outshine the sun and moon? The man disdainfully glanced at Yun Luofeng, his lips curved up with a sneer. She was merely at heavenly god level, how could she defeat him? Although this girl was very talented, she was merely a tiny pearl compared to a magnificent sun like him. There was no way she could outshine him. Swish. Yun Luofeng lifted her arm, and a sword light darted toward him head-on. The man easily dodged it by turning to the side, and the sneer on his lips deepened, his eyes revealing intense contempt. A heavenly god is only a heavenly god, how could you possibly win against me? After saying that, the man acted. He was very fast like a burst of wind, arriving in front of Yun Luofeng in the blink of an eye. A layer of power wrapped around his hand and shot toward Yun Luofeng. Bang! Yun Luofeng did not dodge at the crucial moment and met the man's attack head-on. Bai Ling's heart skipped a beat. She was tense to the point of being unable to breathe. Her fists were tightly clenched, and she started trembling as well. The disdain in the man's eyes intensified. If young Luo Feng dodged, perhaps she would not lose so quickly. But this woman overestimated her strength and wanted to fight fire with fire. How could the power of a heavenly god compare to a reverent god? However, it was not long before the man's smile froze. With a loud boom, enormous power spread from them, leveling the entire hill. It was though it was struck by lightning, and the whole ground sunk in. Young Luo Feng flung her numbed arm, and there was the taste of copper in her throat, nearly spitting out a mouthful of blood, but it was forcibly pressed down. As expected, there was a large gap between reverent god-level cultivators. This man was different from Long Xia who she encountered earlier. Perhaps even 10 Long Xias would not be a match for this man. Undisguised shock flowed out of the man's eyes. In his imagination, that attack just now contained nearly all of his strength, so this woman's arm should be chopped off for certain even she did not die. However, she currently stood before him unscathed. Could it be due to that dragon-scale armor? The man slightly narrowed his eyes and finally discovered something amiss. Perhaps that dragon-scale armor dispelled a majority of his power, which is why this woman was safe and sound. Girl, it looks like I underestimated you. I didn't expect you to have this kind of treasure on you. In other words, you were able to block my attack not because of how strong you were but because you relied on that dragon-scale armor. Since it's like that, then I can only make this quick. All of you, attack. Cripple this girl, the man snorted. He still had a use for this girl, so he naturally could not kill her. Bai Ling had regained her senses already. Looking at the man's shameless face, she icily smiled. What, as if it weren't enough that you are bullying someone younger than you, but now you want to terrorize them with the masses too. Was this what master taught you back then, how to bully the weak? The man sneered. So what if I am bullying her with numbers? It's not my fault that I have more than enough people in my Freedom Alliance. Bai Ling, if you obediently listen to me, I will spare her. This time, without waiting for Bai Ling to respond, young Luo Feng's wicked voice was heard again. I can't compete with you in numbers. But each of my people is a match for 10. Young Luo Feng glanced at the man and dryly said, Ji Jutian, for how long will you continue watching from the sidelines? Chapter 1982. Mother and Daughter Reuniting, 6. As soon as young Luo Feng finished speaking, egotistical laughter pierced the horizon, evoking a commotion in the sky. Xiao Fenger, I didn't expect to be discovered by you even though I hid so deep. A red figure, brilliant like fire, slowly appeared in the air. The man was like a siren who could overturn kingdoms. He was a man, but his beauty caused women to feel ashamed. His red clothes complemented his unrivaled magnificence, his lapels were half opened at his chest, the snow-white skin ransoming people's heart and soul. He donned a haughty smile as he looked down on the people standing opposite of young Luo Feng. Since you came, why didn't you come out before just now? Young Luo Feng asked with narrowed eyes, an evil glint flickering through them. She came to the Fengyun continent to search for Ji Jutian, yet this man decided to hide from her. Didn't that guy say he wanted to fight with you one-on-one? Ji Jutian pointed at the man with his chin. I merely wanted to observe his strength. Also, I don't think he can defeat you. However, he faintly smiled, I didn't expect him to be so shameless. He can't win against you, so he plans to bully the minority with the majority. I was about to come out and help you, but then you discovered me. Young Luo Feng glanced at Ji Jutian. How many can you fight? I will leave this man for you to deal with. I can stop the other people for you. Alright, you will deal with these people with Little Tiger. I will personally take care of this man from the Freedom Alliance. Young Luo Feng's expression turned serious again, her voice was chillingly wicked. Little Tiger called and alertly stared at the people from the Freedom Alliance like they were prey. Bai Ling was not sure if she misconceived it, but she felt like the way this vixen man in red looked at her daughter was unusual. However, her daughter was so outstanding, so it was very normal that she had admirers. Bai Ling was proud as she thought of this. This was her daughter, her pride in life. You want to deal with so many people with you two alone? The man narrowed his eyes, disdain flickering through them. I'm afraid you're fantasizing too much. He would teach them a life lesson and make them understand that they should not bluff. Otherwise, they would slap their own face. Young Luo Feng calmly looked at the man. Yuan Xiao must have already noticed the commotion caused by her fight with this man just now. He must be on his way right now. She must stall for time until he arrived. Ji Judian was standing in front of Luo Feng. At the same time, the group of reverent gods behind the man acted as well. The blood-striped tiger angrily roared and charged toward one of the reverent gods. He opened his mouth wide and ferociously chomped on the reverent god. However, the reverent god managed to dodge Little Tiger's attack by turning to the side. Little Tiger was not discouraged and shot toward the reverent god again. Luo Feng released Yun Yi. Although Yun Yi was only at the heavenly god level, he could still fend off a few attacks of a reverent god with his strength. As for the other spirit beasts, there was a gap in strength, so Luo Feng did not let them come out and fight to avoid unnecessary fatalities. Seeing the man act first, Bai Ling's heart became tense again and she hurriedly warned, "Fenger, careful." With a glance, Luo Feng caught sight of the man that had reached the spot in front of her, and the dragon scale armor on her glowed resplendently as she received the man's attack again. Chapter 1983, Yuan Xiao makes a move 1. There was a sneer on the man's face as his palm fiercely slammed onto the dragon scale armor on Luo Feng. His aura whirled around him, and his every hit aimed for her vitals. Initially, he wanted to use Luo Feng as Bai Ling's substitute, but he never expected this woman to be Bai Ling's daughter. Since it was like that, he would make Bai Ling be in so much pain that she would wish she was dead. That was the price she had to pay for not accepting him. However, seeing Luo Feng dodge his attack again and again, the man's face turned dark, and a layer of frost covered his features. Bai Ling's daughter was actually strong to this extent. Thank goodness he discovered it early on. Otherwise, if he allowed her to continue growing, his Freedom Alliance would probably be destroyed by her. The top priority right now was to eliminate her before she was fully grown. Thinking to this point, a killing intent entered the man's eyes, and his attacks toward Luo Feng became faster and faster and also more and more ferocious, pouring down on her like a raging storm. Luo Feng used a tranquil expression to cover up her emotions inside. The dragon scale armor had a time limit. She had summoned it once earlier already. Although she was able to summon twice in a short amount of time because she broke through to heavenly god level, she would be at a disadvantage once the armor disappeared. At that time, she would be unable to fend this man off. While Luo Feng was deep in contemplation, the man arrived in front of her again, a sharp blade appearing in his hand, chopping down toward Luo Feng's head. Luo Feng tilted her head, and the blade slid past her hair, with a strand of hair being cut off and drifting down from the air. "Girl, you might be beautiful, but you are too young still. You aren't as flavorful as your mother. Otherwise, I wouldn't mind accepting both of you, ha ha ha." The man guffawed, his arrogant voice ringing in the air. "I'm afraid you won't have the life to enjoy it," Luo Feng domineering stated as she coldly looked at the man. "Tut. From what I know, your dragon scale armor has a time limit. When it's time, I'm afraid you will become a lamb waiting for slaughter." "Is that so?" Luo Feng faintly smiled. Her dragon scale armor did have a time limit, but Yuan Xiao was also almost here. She only needed to hold on until Yuan Xiao came. "Stop." Seeing the man about to attack again, Bai Ling finally could not help but shout, "Oh Yulei, I'm the one you have been looking for all along. This has nothing to do with my daughter. If you dare to hurt her the slightest, I will turn you limbless even if I am crushed in the process." After all, Bai Ling was Luo Feng's mother, so how could she not know her daughter was barely holding on? If she did not step up and protect her daughter, how was she worthy to be a mother? The man that Bai Ling called Yulei smiled and haughtily looked at Bai Ling. "Bai Ling, you finally decided to be married to me. It's not like you have a pure body anyway. You should be deeply grateful that I will still take you." His face was arrogant. "Could it be that I can't compare to that bastard of yours?" Bai Ling mockingly smiled. 10,000 of you wouldn't compare to a single him. I am not pleading with you right now, I am warning you. You should believe my strength. You won't end well if I do sacrifice myself." Yulei's face slowly darkened, filling people with terror like a hurricane. Chapter 1984, Yuan Xiao makes a move 2. This woman was truly asking for it. She just had to force him to attack her, didn't she? "I said, I can take care of this." Young Luo Feng helplessly sighed as she looked at Bai Ling, who stepped forward. You're my daughter. I can't leave you alone. Bai Ling turned to look at Lei, frost covering her face. Over these years, you have suffered too many grievances and harm already. Now, after much difficulty we've reunited, so how could I permit anyone to ever hurt you again? Although Bai Ling did not know how young Luo Feng spent these years, she must have suffered through pain that normal people could not imagine to be so strong at such a young age. As soon as she thought about everything that her daughter experienced these past years, pain would drill into her heart. Roar. Little Tiger mightily roared in correspondence to Bai Ling, a paw slapping toward the reverent god in front of him. Ji Judian looked back at young Luo Feng, a seductively evil smile on his vixen face. He quickly turned back around to continue dealing with the enemies before him. Humph. Lei snorted. Yun Yuecheng, you forced me to do this. Don't blame me for ignoring our past friendship. After saying this, powerful energy gathered in Lei's palm, causing even the sky and earth to change its color. The boundless energy was like an unsheathed sword and arrived in front of Yun Luo Feng in the blink of an eye. This time, he did not plan to hold any strength back and put all of his power behind his attack before sending it off. Fenger, careful. Bai Ling turned pale with fright, reaching the front of Yun Luo Feng in a flash, wanting to take this blow for her. However, young Luo Feng fiercely pushed Bai Ling away. Bai Ling dumbfoundedly looked back, and an eternally unforgettable scene occurred. The enormously powerful energy swallowed Yun Luo Feng whole. Dark clouds densely covered the sky, the gloominess suffocating people's heart. The woman's clothes were whiter than snow, without a speck of dust. She stood in the air, her beauty able to overturn kingdoms. Lei was stunned. His attack just now was fully packed, yet it was useless against this woman. No. Watching Yun Luo Feng's current situation, Lei narrowed his eyes. It appears that dragon scale armor of yours is truly a treasure. What a pity that it can't withstand such a powerful energy despite how formidable it is, so it could not resist my attack. It was like that indeed. Young Luo Feng used her dragon scale armor to block this attack, but the armor could not withstand the power behind it, so it dissipated before the time was up. However, feeling the nearing presence, Yun Luo Feng smiled. Her dark eyes remained placid like water without a single ripple. Fenger. Bai Ling felt like her heart nearly stopped just now. She swiftly walked to the front of Yun Luo Feng and hurriedly embraced her. Yun Luo Feng could feel Bai Ling trembling. You're fine. That's great. You're fine. She did not dare to imagine how much damage Yun Luo Feng would have suffered from this blow if it weren't for the protection of the dragon scale armor. She also could not imagine how she would spend her life if she were to lose the daughter she just got back. Thankfully, she was safe. Bai Ling was stuttering, and 2 streams of tear trailed down her face, her eyes full of happiness, the type of happiness where you lose something only to regain it. Chapter 1985, Yun Xiao Makes a Move 3. Lei watched as Bai Ling tightly embraced Yun Luo Feng, the killing intent in his eyes intensifying. She's nothing but a bastard, does she deserve you cherishing her like this? Bai Ling clenched her fists, rage boiling in her chest as she coldly turned around to look at Lei. She is my legitimate daughter and I'm an officially wed daughter-in-law of the Yun family. How is she a bastard? My wonderful junior sister, don't forget that master is dead already, and I'm your senior brother. I didn't agree to your marriage to that man, so that girl can merely be a bastard. Bai Ling smiled, derision in her smile. I formally became master's disciple for a mere 10 years, but I was married to brother Yang for nearly 30 years. You think you have the qualifications to decide important matters in my life for me? If the past few years did not happen, Bai Ling would still treat this senior brother of hers as family. Back when master was still alive, whether it was her senior brothers or senior sisters, they all treated her extremely well. However, as soon as master died, these people's rapacious ambition was exposed. She never knew Lei was such a shameless and vile character. Young Luo Feng did not stop their conversation. To her, the longer they could stall Lei, the better. This saved her from thinking of a way to stall for time. Yun Yuecheng, I'm your senior brother, you must listen to me. Lei grew angry and lifted his hand, wanting to grab Bai Ling's shoulders. Either this bastard serves me like you will, or she dies. You choose. Before Oulei's hand could touch Bai Ling, she swatted it away with revulsion. Her eyes contained unconcealed disgust. Scram, don't touch me with you disgusting hands. Also, there's no way my daughter will die, nor will she serve you. Oulei lost his mind to violent fury. He naturally could not kill Bai Ling, so he could only turn his sight toward young Luo Feng again. You don't have the protection of the dragon scale armor anymore. Let's see how you will fight with me this time. Die. The second his words were spoken, he charged in front of Yun Luofeng as fast as lightning. The killing intent in his eyes was completely revealed as an icy, eerie smile turned up on his lips. Watching the approaching attack, Yun Luofeng's expression turned serious. This time, she didn't dare to fight fire with fire and turned to the side to dodge it. However, Oulei's sharp sword was a hairbreadth from her eyes in the next second. She had nowhere to run. Bai Ling's heart stopped again, and she madly dashed toward Yun Luofeng. However, she was a bit far away and could not compete with Oulei in front of her. She would not reach Yun Luofeng in time. Suddenly, in the air, a cold, rope-like presence strapped around his neck, choking him. By the time he recovered, a man in long, black robes landed in front of him and took Yun Luofeng into his arms. The man's expression was cool, and a forbidding aura whipped around him as he lifted his hand, forcing Oulei to back up a few steps, seriousness finally creeping onto the man's face. Who are you? Yun Xiao's mouth curved up, his face grave. You delusionally dare to touch my woman, yet you ask me who I am. Bai Ling was originally wondering about the identity of the man who descended from the sky and instantly turned stupefied when she heard his words, thunderstruck. His woman, could it be that Fenger had a husband already? Bai Ling's face turned dim. How much did she miss all these years? Oulei's expression shifted. He could feel the powerful aura around this man, and his mood turned heavy. Chapter 1986. Yun Xiao makes a move. 4. Boy, you sure you want to meddle in other people's business? There are so many women in the world, don't lose your life because of a woman. Oulei was absolutely unwilling to lose in manner, so he did not forget to ruthlessly warn Yun Xiao even now. As long as this man was sensible, he would not be enemies with the Freedom Alliance. However, Yun Xiao had always been sparing with his words. He was a strong believer of the adage that actions spoke louder than words. Hence, Oulei did not receive an answer and was instead met with a falcon-like figure appearing before his eyes. Oulei's expression shifted, and he met the other man's attack. Instantly, a numb feeling spread from his arm to the rest of his body, making him take a few steps back and spit out a mouthful of blood. At this time, Ji Judian had killed all of the reverent gods in front of him and slowly walked to Yun Xiao's side. With his chin raised, he asked, "Do you need this lord's help?" Yun Xiao's voice was as cool as always. "No need." Ji Judian smiled alluringly and descended from the sky, standing in front of Yun Luofeng. With Yun Xiao's strength, Oulei was not his match indeed, and Yun Xiao's actions quickly proved Ji Judian's words. Oulei had nearly exhausted all of his strength from fighting with Yun Luofeng earlier, so he did not have any energy left to ward Yun Xiao off. Of course, even if he did not fight with Yun Luofeng earlier, he still would not be a match for Yun Xiao. No one noticed that there was a slender figure hiding behind an ancient tree a little distance away. Mo Qiancheng was ardently watching Yun Luofeng. When he saw the deep love in her eyes, he felt like needles were pricking his heart, unbearably painful. Wechen, you didn't love me in your last life, but this life, you still don't like me. He cast down his eyes to cover up the anguish in his eyes. I originally wanted to kill that man, but unfortunately, I can't kill him with my current strength. More importantly, I don't want you to hate me. I don't want you to hate me, that's all. I once committed an enormous mistake and brought about your hate. So now, what I am most afraid of seeing is your eyes filled with hatred. If this man is truly your choice, then should I let you go? Mo Qiancheng did not know what choice he should make. He found himself at a loss. After a final glance at Yun Luofeng, he turned around and left this place. It was enough for him to know that she was safe and sound. Mo Qiancheng harshly bit his lips, his handsome face pale, and tears of longing rolled around his eyes. However, in the end, he understood that he would not be able to eliminate the hate in her heart regardless of what he did. She hated him. He was able to tell since he first tried to kill Yuan Xiao. Otherwise, she would not keep so many people around her, except for him. Wechen, if there's a next life, then I wish to not be acquainted with you again. He had waited for him for so many years, waited until his heart grew battered with fatigue. Perhaps it was time for him to attempt to let go. In the air, Oyulei's physical strength gradually decreased and he found it very difficult to deal with the other man. Just when he could not hold on any longer, Yuan Xiao sharply kicked him down from the sky, and he fell in front of Bai Ling with a bang. A deep crater was created on the ground from his fall. Yuan Xiao walked from the sky to Luo Feng's side, his pitch-black eyes filled with tenderness. Fenger, I arrived late. Chapter 1987, Yuan Xiao makes a move 5. Not late, just in time. Luo Feng had her eyes lowered and a faint smile on her face. Immediately, she pulled Yuan Xiao toward Bai Ling. Mother, this is Yuan Xiao. He has accompanied me for these past 10+ years. He is also my lover who I can entrust with my life. Yuan Xiao was startled, but he quickly regained his cold expression and nodded lightly. Mother. Hearing Luo Feng say it like this, Bai Ling surveyed Yuan Xiao up and down, liking him more the more she looked at him, just like how most mother-in-laws viewed their son-in-laws. However, when Bai Ling heard Yuan Xiao's address for her, she was taken back. You two have married? Luo Feng rubbed her nose. It happened not long ago. We were just married. The current Bai Ling felt like she was struck by lightning and wanted to cry but had no tears. She originally wanted to participate in her daughter's marriage ceremony, but who knew her daughter would tell her they were married already? The largest tragedy for a mother was probably being unable to see her daughter getting married. Mother, how should we deal with this guy? Luo Feng asked with raised brows, turning her sight toward the man unable to climb out of the deep crater. Bai Ling stated with a deep frown, kill him. If Oyulei was being unreasonable to her alone, she could forgive him. But she could not tolerate him wanting to harm her precious daughter. Yuan Xiao, kill him. I don't want to dirty my hands. Luo Feng lazily yawned, her expression indolent. Things were nearly at its end at this point. All right, Yuan Xiao spoke concisely and walked toward Oyulei. In the crater, Oyulei saw the approaching cold face, and panic appeared on his face. No, I don't want to die. I beg you to spare me. I beg you, ah. Suddenly, Yuan Xiao waved his hand and numerous sharp sword lights charged down one by one, cutting him down. Not long later, there was not a single whole spot on Oyulei, and his eyes were wide open, as though he died with remaining grievances. Bai Ling watched Oyulei's life fade as he laid in a pool of blood with grief in his heart. This man died like this. He died in an extremely miserable fashion. However, Bai Ling did not feel any sympathy. Oyulei must pay for his sins, who could he blame? Mistress. Little Tiger's ears suddenly twitched, and he said, the spirit beasts from Forest of Heaven's trial sent a message just now, saying that the woman called Long Xia had fled. Earlier, Yuan Xiao merely killed the reverent gods from the Freedom Alliance and was about to take care of Long Xia when he heard the commotion deep inside Forest of Heaven's trial. He was worried for Luo Feng's safety and could not attend to Long Xia. Who would have expected that woman would be capable enough to escape? No big deal. Bai Ling's furrowed brows relaxed. Besides the Freedom Alliance, where else could she go? And I will personally make a trip to Freedom Alliance eventually. After saying this, Bai Ling turned to Little Tiger, also, your mistress is Fenger. From now on, she is your only mistress. Woo. Little Tiger obediently responded and flopped onto the ground in a pile. Yuan Xiao, let's meet up with other people first. After saying this, Luo Feng walked to Bai Ling's side and wrapped her arm around her shoulders. Mother, come with me for some time, I still need to help you treat your poison. Bai Ling was startled. You are saying my poison can be treated? Luo Feng smiled. In comparison to my strength, I am more proud of my medical skill. So I am 100% certain I can resolve your poison. It's just the procedure is a bit troublesome. Chapter 1988. Yuan Xiao makes a move 6. Bai Ling felt dizzy. She remembered that when she left, her daughter did not know anything. How did she turn so powerful after 20-something years and also have extraordinary medical skills? What hardships did she experience in these 20 years? Bai Ling heart twitched in pain again and firmly decided to use her whole life to compensate her. Not far away, Qi Su had his head raised and was looking around in anticipation. When he saw young Luo Feng walking over with Bai Ling, warm tears flooded his eyes instantly. Master. It had been more than 3 years. Who could understand how he had passed these 3 years? No one treated him better than Master in this world. Master was family that he did not want to lose in his life. Sewer. Bai Ling caught sight of Qi Su at first glance, a gentle smile surfacing on her face. She slowly walked toward Qi Su, leading young Luo Feng by her hand. Fenger told me everything that happened these past 3 years on the way here. It has been hard on you and Xiaoling. I didn't expect the Qi family to be ingrates like this. They used the world she conquered to abuse her disciple. And they also wanted to sell Xiaoling to someone. Bai Ling never expected someone like this would exist in the world. Master. Qi Su kneeled in front of Bai Ling with a bang, sobbing. It was this disciple who has been unfilial. I have caused Master to suffer inside Forest of Heaven's trial these past years. If he had enough power to protect his family, then Master would not have taken a risk like this. Bai Ling realized that Qi Su had gathered the blame for her going missing for 3 years onto himself. She hurriedly helped him up and gently said, Sewer, this wasn't your fault. Master was set up by other people and had no choice but to hide in this place. Qi Su did not say anything, but he secretly decided to never let Master come to any harm ever again. When Mu Shuexin saw Yun Luofeng and Bai Ling step out at the same time, she was dazed. She discovered that when these two women stood side by side, they looked like mother and daughter. Curious, she asked, Auntie Yun, you and Miss Yun are. Oh, I forgot to tell you. Bai Ling clasped Yun Luofeng's hand, her face full of pride. This is my daughter, Yun Luofeng. My real name also isn't Yun Yueqing, it's Bai Ling. Yun is my husband's surname, which is why I was unable to forget it for so many years. And I named Xiaoling, Ling, because I only remembered this character. Mu Shuexin's mouth opened in astonishment, and she quickly held her hand over it. No wonder she thought Yun Luofeng was so familiar. It turned out she was Auntie Yun's daughter. Currently, the people from Ziyu Kingdom were all dead, and the Jinyang Kingdom suffered some fatalities as well. Only the group of people led by Cheng Li were still alive. As for Qi Yu of the Tianqi Kingdom, no one had seen neither hide nor hair of him, who knew where he hid. Without much surprise, Cheng Li was not as wild as earlier and was frightened to the point of not daring to utter a single word. His head was kept lowered in a subservient manner. Young Luofeng did not pay attention to him and walked to Chao Zixuan's body, took the jade seal from his lapels, and put it inside her lapels without any hesitation. Do you have any objections against me taking this jade seal away? She indifferently asked while looking at Cheng Li with raised brows. Cheng Li's heart nearly stopped beating from terror. No objections. What a joke, this woman did not care about reverent god levels even. Did he dare to have objections? Wouldn't he be seeking death? Chapter 1989, Jinyang's Anger 1. Rustle rustle. Rustling came from the side. When everyone turned to look, they discovered Qi Yu leading a few people out. Only a few soldiers remained from the troop he brought inside, as the rest had all died inside the Forest of Heaven's trial. Qi Yu evidently did not expect to run into Qi Ling and the others. When he saw the ground full of corpses, he jumped in fright. What in the world happened here? However, Qi Yu quickly regained his wits and disdainfully looked at Qi Ling. Second Imperial brother, I am wagering you haven't had much luck yet, right? Do you need me to lend you a hand? Haha, I obtained a jade seal not too long ago. I just need to obtain one more, and I will be in first place for certain this time. He had his chin raised high, and his tone arrogant. As for you, if you weren't together with the people from the Jinyang Kingdom, perhaps you would have already lost your life to these outsiders. Qi Yu did not recognize the experts from the Freedom Alliance and had never even met Wu Zun from the Jinyang Kingdom. Hence, he was confident that these people had accidentally stumbled into the Forest of Heaven's trial and had a confrontation with the Four Kingdoms. It was Cheng Li who led the people of the Jinyang Kingdom to kill this group of outsiders, and Qi Ling had merely hidden behind the Jinyang Kingdom. Cheng Li looked at Qi Yu oddly, as though he was looking at an idiot. Qi Yu did not notice his odd look at all, and there was a sneer on his face as he egotistically looked down on Qi Ling. You want to find another jade seal? It was a long while before Qi Ling finally spoke. His voice was very indifferent, chilling to the bones. Qi Yu snickered. Second Imperial brother, if you want to fight with me, you absolutely won't win. In other words, the winner of the Four Kingdom tournament this time would be no one but him. I'm sorry. What I wanted to tell you is, don't bother looking for that jade seal. Because besides the jade seal in your hand, the other jade seals have all been obtained by Miss Yun already. Before Qi Yu stopped snickering, Qi Ling's aloof voice traveled to his ears and exploded in his mind, his face obviously dumbfounded. Are you kidding me? I merely found one, yet you can obtain three. Qi Yu clearly did not believe Qi Ling and thought he was deceiving him. He inwardly ascertained this and snorted. I know, you want to lie to me so that I would think the jade seals are in your hands and give up on this competition. Qi Ling, oh, Qi Ling, do you think I'm a stupid swine? Why would I fall into your trap? After saying this, he purposefully looked at Yun Luo Feng. However, Yun Luo Feng had her arms across her chest the whole time as she languidly leaned against Yun Xiao's chest with amusement in her eyes. She did not have the slightest inclination to interfere in this matter. When Qi Yu saw Yun Xiao, his pupils dilated. He remembered that this man called the Ghost Emperor had killed Princess Qiao Yefeng on the spot and stood his ground without a problem against the experts of the Jinyang Kingdom. However, he was not a member of the Four Kingdoms, so why would he appear here? What was laughable was that his gaze had been on the corpses from the start and did not notice Yun Xiao's presence. He is speaking the truth. The look in Cheng Li's eyes was complicated. They have already obtained the other three jade seals. If it was the people from the Luo Feng Kingdom who said this, perhaps Qi Yu would not believe it. Chapter 1990. Jinyang's Anger 2. But the one who told him this was Prince Cheng Li from the Jinyang Kingdom. Qi Yu's heart was mercilessly shaken, and he involuntarily took a few steps back. He slightly narrowed his eyes, killing intent leaking through his gaze toward Qi Ling. This idiot actually managed to obtain 3 jade seals. No, absolutely not permissible. This world was his. It can't be handed over to anyone else. Prince Cheng Li, could you possibly want to see Qi Ling unite the Four Kingdoms? Qi Yu's eyes twinkled, and he eerily said, I think that your Jinyang Kingdom is more qualified than Qi Ling. Although Qi Ling has the help of the Luo Feng Kingdom, but if we teamed up, we have a chance. Qi Yu was betting. He was betting that Yun Xiao would not meddle in other people's business out of fear for the two kingdoms. After all, regardless of how strong this man was, he was probably nothing but a reverent god-level cultivator. However, the reverent god-level cultivators from the two kingdoms added together would be enough to crush him. Qi Yu had clearly forgotten something though. Yun Xiao dared to kill someone in front of the emperor of the Jinyang Kingdom, what didn't he dare to do? Without waiting for Qi Ling and his group say anything, Cheng Li darted up and flung his palm across Qi Yu's face. Then, he furiously lifted his leg and ruthlessly kicked his chest. Idiot, if you want to dig your own grave, don't fucking drag this prince down with you. Cheng Li was trembling from anger. Teaming up with him to oppose Qi Ling and them, did he have the guts? Why didn't he take a look at how many reverent god-level cultivators from the Freedom Alliance died here? How many people did their Jinyang Kingdom have for them to kill? Qi Yu stood up while clutching his chest. He angrily hollered, Cheng Li, what are you doing? You want to unite the Four Kingdoms, and I plan to help you, but you attack me. That's how you ungratefully reward my kindness. That's right, I am hitting you, trash. Cheng Li kicked again, sending Qi Yu flying back. The group of people behind Qi Yu wanted to act but were knocked down by the soldiers from the Jinyang Kingdom. Currently, Cheng Li did not care whether the other person was another kingdom's prince. He directly ran to him and mercilessly stomped down. Trash, if you want to die, find somewhere devoid of people to die. Why would you set me up? What? I want to unite the Four Kingdoms. What fucking bullshit, I never wanted to do that. What a joke, even if he wanted to, he did not have the nerve to say it. Also, after seeing Yun Luo Feng and Yun Xiao's strength, he truly did not entertain that kind of thoughts anymore. This continent had always been like that, the strong were respected. Their strength was too terrifying. He would not stand a chance. This was why Cheng Li would become so enraged after hearing Qi Yu's words. Qi Yu was stunned by the attack. He evidently did not know what had happened and could not say a single word due to the pain. I don't have any enmities with you, yet you want to harm me. Today, if I don't kill a piece of trash like you, I will take up your surname. Qi Yu claimed that Cheng Li wanted to rule over the four kingdoms in front of Luo Feng and Xiao and wanted to team up with him to oppose these people. What was different between this and setting him up on purpose? Cheng Li trembled as soon as he thought to this point. Of course, his trembling was not due to being angered, it was due to the fear that came from the bottom of his heart. He was afraid that Luo Feng would believe this trash's words. Prince, if your highness keeps hitting him, he will really be killed. One of the people behind Cheng Li kindly warned him when he saw Cheng Li flying off the handle with rage. Cheng Yu was a prince of the Tianqi kingdom, to say the least. No matter what, he cannot hit him to the point of death. As expected, Cheng Li retracted his leg and harshly glared at Qi Yu. Next time, if you harm me again, it won't be as simple as a mere hard beating. Chapter 1991, Jinyang's Anger 3. Qi Yu was dazed. He had no idea how his actions turned into framing Cheng Li. Miss Yun. Cheng Li speed walked to the front of Luo Feng, bowing like a Pekingese dog. How did I do? Luo Feng's lips slightly turned up. He spoke correctly. In the beginning, didn't you want to team up with the prince of the Ziyu kingdom to fight us? Cold sweat rose on Cheng Li's forehead, and he wiped it away. Who knew the more he wiped, the more sweat surfaced. His face was pale as he awkwardly chuckled. That was because I was bewitched by the Ziyu kingdom back then. Miss Yun, please forgive humble me's mistake and spare me. Luo Feng peered up at him. Remember, the leader of the four kingdoms isn't me, it's Qi Ling. If you have anything to say, find him. As for why she did not make Qi Su the leader of the four kingdoms, it was because Qi Su needed to help her manage the spirit-gathering medicine store and did not have excess energy to manage the four kingdoms. Yes, Cheng Li flatteringly smiled, blasé and sighed. Although Miss Yun claims the leader of the four kingdoms was Qi Ling, anyone could tell that Qi Ling had become her subordinate already. So the one controlling the four kingdoms from behind the scenes was still her. Right, recalling something, Cheng Li said, Princess Jinyang from our Jinyang kingdom was summoned back previously, but when Wu Zun mentioned Jinyang, I could feel that his tone was peculiar. I suspect something will happen to Jinyang. A coldly beautiful face surfaced in Luo Feng's mind. She pondered over it for a moment before saying, Yun Xiao, we will return to Fengyun City immediately. No matter what, before Princess Jinyang left, she had warned her that this journey to the Forest of Heaven's trial would not be simple and she should pay attention to her safety. Based on this warning, she would help Jinyang once at the key moment. All right, Yun Xiao's hand wrapped around Luo Feng's waist and they slowly ascended into the air. They were 100 meters away in a few steps. Master, Qi Su looked at Bai Ling and explained, Princess Jinyang had warned us to be cautious of our safety. If she's truly in danger, we ought to help. Let's go together then. Bai Ling did not hesitate. Since she had helped her daughter and disciple, then she must lend her a hand at the vital moment. Everyone ignored the fallen Qi Yu and all headed toward Fengyun City. Fengyun City. Princess Jinyang swiftly entered an extravagant estate and caught sight of a frowning Cheng Feiyang contemplating something. Imperial Father, why did you urgently summon me back? As Cheng Feiyang looked at Princess Jinyang's face, struggle flashed through his eyes, but he ended up sighing helplessly. Jinyang, Father inadvertently received news that people from the Freedom Alliance also went to the Forest of Heaven's trial and planned to slaughter the prodigies of the four kingdoms inside the forest. Hearing this, Princess Jinyang's face abruptly shifted. Imperial Father, why didn't you mention this earlier? It is the princes and princesses who came from the four kingdoms this time. If they die, it would be a heavy loss to the four kingdoms. If you told them, perhaps they could escape this calamity. Jinyang, even if the four kingdoms were united, they might not be able to resist the current Freedom Alliance. Imperial Father merely didn't want the Jinyang kingdom to be destroyed. Helplessness covered Cheng Feiyang's face. If I knew this would happen, Imperial Father wouldn't have chosen the Forest of Heaven's trial as the competition location. Chapter 1992, Jinyang's Anger 4. His words made it seem like he did not know about it at first. Unfortunately, Princess Jinyang believed him. No matter how conflicted she was, how could she blame Imperial Father? He did it for the whole Jinyang kingdom. However, when she recalled young Luo Feng situated inside the Forest of Heaven's trial, she inwardly sighed. She hoped young Luo Feng listened to her warning and could safely escape this calamity. Actually, Cheng Feiyong continued. I had you come back because of something else as well. What is it? Jinyang looked up at Cheng Feiyong, unease flowing out of her heart when she saw Cheng Feiyong's hesitation. Your imperial mother, anguish appeared in Cheng Feiyong's eyes. Was kidnapped by the Freedom Alliance. Something harshly slammed into Princess Jinyang's heart with a bang. Her breathing became uncontrollable, and her clenched fists lightly shaking. What did you say? Imperial Mother was kidnapped. Why did the Freedom Alliance kidnap Imperial Mother? The president of the Freedom Alliance took a liking to you and wants to make you his woman, so they took away your Imperial Mother. Cheng Feiyong's voice was trembling as he said this. Jinyang, Imperial Father has no choice. Only you can save your Imperial Mother. In truth, the Empress was dead already, but this was the only method to make her obediently go to the Freedom Alliance. Princess Jinyang closed her eyes, her fists tightly clenched. What did she work so hard for? It was so that she would not become a marriage tool and could find her own life partner one day. Even if she got up at sunrise and worked until sunset, she would be thoroughly content. But in the end, as a princess of the imperial family, could she not change her fate? Imperial Father, you agreed, Jinyang asked after opening her eyes. Cheng Feiyong avoided looking at her. To save your Imperial Mother, Jen had no choice but to agree. I understand. Princess Jinyang lifted her cold face. I will marry. As long as Imperial Mother could live, she was willing to be reduced to a toy for men. Jinyang, Cheng Feiyong called, his tone full of heartache. This girl was a daughter who he had dearly loved for more than 20 years, to say the least, so how could he genuinely bear to let her go and suffer? But he had no choice, right? He did not have the strength to provoke the Freedom Alliance. I'm tired. I want to rest a bit. Princess Jinyang did not take another glance at her father and calmly turned around to walk out of the door. The moment she turned around, tears could not help but flow down her face. Her desire in life was truly simple. A caring lover would do. Yet, she just had to be a princess of the imperial family. This wish became very difficult. Princess Jinyang walked toward her room in the rest station. The second she entered the room, closed the door, and turned around, a figure suddenly appeared in front of her. She jumped with fright and was about to call out in shock when the person knelt down with a plop. Princess, you need to avenge the Empress. Xiao, why are you inside my room? Jinyang asked with a frown. Also, what do you mean I need to avenge Imperial Mother? Your Highness the Princess, this servant had wanted to go out and find you these past few days, but the people at the city gate simply wouldn't let this servant leave. And His Majesty appeared to have detected something and wanted to lock this servant up. This servant recalled that the princess's room has a secret room, so I secretly hid here. Chapter 1993. Jinyang's Anger 5. The palace maid's face was full of tears and grief. What do you mean? Why does Imperial Father want to lock you up? Jinyang was baffled and did not understand her. Your Highness the Princess, Her Majesty the Empress is dead. Boom. The palace maid's words were like lightning flashing across a clear sky and striking Jinyang's head, causing her to shudder. She latched onto a nearby wall, barely holding herself up. What nonsense are you speaking? Imperial Mother was kidnapped by the Freedom Alliance, why are you saying she is dead? Impossible. Imperial Mother couldn't be dead. Imperial Father couldn't have lied to her. Your Highness the Princess, this servant witnessed this with my own eyes. His Majesty and Wu Zun plotted together and said they would give you to the President of the Freedom Alliance. Her Majesty heard this, so Wu Zun killed Her Majesty. He also discussed with His Majesty to cover this up and purposefully make you think Her Majesty was kidnapped by the Freedom Alliance to force you, Your Highness. The palace maid explained everything in one breath, and her voice could not help but start trembling slightly. Jinyang heavily leaned against the wall, and tears unconsciously started drenching her face. Her lips were pale. Xiao, tell me you are lying to me. She said she did not believe this all, but in truth, she clearly understood Xiaoju had no need to lie to her. Did that mean Imperial Father was lying to her? The more Cheng Feiyang thought about it, the more he worried about Jinyang. He wanted to visit her and tell her to keep the present situation above all else. However, the moment he pushed the door open and entered, he saw the palace maid who had gone completely missing the past few days kneeling in front of Jinyang. Standing opposite of her, tears covered Jinyang's face and hatred leaked out of her eyes. Cheng Feiyang's heart skipped a beat. It appeared his guess was correct. This palace maid really knew everything. However, he never would have expected for her to hide inside Jinyang's room. Hold on, he had ordered someone to search through all the rooms, but they did not discover Xiaoju. Where in the world did she hide? Imperial Father. Jinyang turned her head, staring at Cheng Feiyang with her anguished gaze. Why did you kill Imperial Mother? Why? Cheng Feiyang closed his eyes. It was a while before he reopened them. It wasn't me who killed your Imperial Mother. In other words, Imperial Mother was really dead. Jinyang stumbled a few steps and nearly collapsed. Her face was full of despair and hatred. I know it wasn't you who killed Imperial Mother, it was Wu Zun. However, why did you help Wu Zun lie to me? Why didn't you tell me the truth? Why? She hysterically shouted. Her eyes were bloodshot, the typical coolness in her eyes was replaced with hatred and fury, full of disbelief. She could not believe that her Imperial Father who treated Imperial Mother that gently and dearly loved her would be an accomplice in killing his wife. Yes, he was an accomplice. Otherwise, he would not help Wu Zun cover this matter up. Jinyang, Jen is the Emperor. My hands are tied about many things. Cheng Feiyang's heart was also in pain. But what could he do? For the Jinyang kingdom, he could only give up his wife and daughter. Jinyang startled laughing, her smile miserable. What a wonderful, my hands are tied. You are merely seeking an excuse for your ambition. You want to be the strongest of the four kingdoms, so I work hard and cultivate to break through. You want to unite and lead the four kingdoms, so I plan to obtain first place for certain this time. And you killed my Imperial Mother and deceived me so that I would be married to the President of the Freedom Alliance. Chapter 1994. Jinyang's Anger, 6. Jinyang could not believe that the one who did this was the father who had spoiled her and protected her this whole time. However, regardless of how Imperial Father loved his wife and spoiled his daughter, as soon as his wife and daughter conflicted with his status, he could give them up without any hesitation to stabilize his position. Your Highness the Princess. The palace maid stood up from the ground and angrily looked at Cheng Feiyang. This servant and Her Majesty the Empress also heard that His Majesty had reached an agreement with the Freedom Alliance. His Majesty would lure the prodigies of the four kingdoms to the Forest of Heaven's trial and the Freedom Alliance would help His Majesty raise his strength. Wu Zun also went to the Forest of Heaven's trial to help the Freedom Alliance kill the prodigies of the four kingdoms. Shut up. Hearing this, Cheng Feiyang turned angry due to his shame and flung his palm onto the palace maid's chest. The maid flew back, and blood ceaselessly spilled out of her mouth. Xiaoju. Jinyang dashed toward the palace maid and helped her up. Are you all right? Your Highness, it was Her Majesty the Empress who saved this servant's life, and Your Highness has treated this servant extremely well. This servant should have followed Her Majesty after she passed, but this servant was afraid Your Highness would be deceived, so this servant remained. The palace maid's voice was very weak. Now, this servant can go serve Her Majesty again. How impudent! Cheng Feiyang angrily shouted. If it weren't for this little bitch, Jinyang would not know everything so fast, so he released all of his anger onto the palace maid. You are a palace maid of the Jinyang kingdom, but you dare to disobey Jen. Your crime deserves death. What was laughable was that the palace maid held no regard for her life anymore, so why would she care about Cheng Feiyang's threat? Jinyang could feel the maid's weakening breathing, so she gently laid her down on the ground before turning her hatred-filled eyes toward Cheng Feiyang. It turns out you were the one who led the Freedom Alliance to the Forest of Heaven's trial. For your private gain, you killed all those prodigies from the four kingdoms and became a lackey of the Freedom Alliance. Jinyang's chest rose and fell unevenly. Cheng Feiyang, I'm telling you, there's no way I will be married to the Freedom Alliance. Dream on. Jinyang was angry to the point of calling him by his name, the rage in her eyes boiling over. Bang. Suddenly, the door burst open. Cheng Feiyong turned to look with a frown and saw a ragged figure quickly entering the room. It was a pretty woman, but she looked like she had gone through a battle and looked battered. Miss Lang. Cheng Feiyong was startled. This was Lang Xinyue, the woman who came with the president of the Freedom Alliance the first time he visited. How did she turn so battered? And why did she come to Fengyun City at a time like this? Lang Xinyue frowned. I came to take Princess Jinyang away. Did the president have you come to take Jinyang? The reverence in Cheng Feiyong's voice rung as clear as day. We have been waiting here for you for a long while. You can take Jinyang away now. Lang Xinyue snorted but did not answer Cheng Feiyong. If she did not have a use for Jinyang still, she would not have bothered to come and take her away. I won't go, Jinyang icily stated, suppressing the killing intent rolling inside of her. Without Imperial Mother as a hostage, did they think they could force her? Jinyang, Imperial Father is begging you. Cheng Feiyong's face was full of pleading. Imperial Father has treated you like the pearl in my palm and dearly loved you. Could you bear to let Imperial Father be suppressed by the Freedom Alliance? Moreover, you should know that your parents have complete say in your marriage. Chapter 1995. Young Luo Feng was tricked. 1. Her parents had complete say in her marriage. In the end, would she be unable to escape her fate still? Jinyang's heart was full of unwillingness. She clenched her fists and looked up stubbornly. And if I refuse? Jinyang, Imperial Father has raised you to this age and gave you doting that no one else could enjoy. Even if it is merely in consideration of Imperial Father's favor for raising you, you should follow Miss Lang and leave. Jinyang could not help but shudder, her heart further enveloped by despair and pain. How she wished she was nothing but a daughter of a normal family. It would be better than being a marriage tool. I understand. A long time later, her clenched fists relaxed and her pale and beautiful face filled with coldness and proudness. Since you want to marry me to the president of the Freedom Alliance, then I will do as you say. I will consider this as paying back your favor of raising me. From now on, the relationship between us as father and daughter will be like this hair. She grasped a lock of hair and chopped it off with the sword in her hand. Pieces of hair gracefully floated down, like her determined mind. All ties are broken. These 4 words were spoken decisively and resolutely, causing Cheng Feiyong's heart to throb with pain. He knew that this decision of his had caused him to completely lose this daughter who he had always been proud of. Jinyang, don't blame Imperial Father. Imperial Father had no alternative. Had no alternative? Jinyang snorted, mockery in her eyes. You did have alternatives. It's just that to you, compared to Imperial Mother and me, your status is more important. Cheng Feiyong did not refute this as Jinyang spoke the truth. Once a person had a high status, then he would absolutely be unwilling to fall down from that spot. Otherwise, he would be unable to bear that loss. Also, Jinyang paused briefly. I am no longer Princess Jinyang nor am I a daughter of the Cheng family. I will follow Imperial Mother's surname Lianyu. From this moment onward, my name is Lianyu Cheng. After saying this, Jinyang flicked her sleeve and left. Her back was straight and she was very resolute, with her eyes revealing her unwavering stance. Looking at Jinyang's departing figure, Cheng Feiyong's legs grew limp. He realized he had lost too much family this time. But he had no choice, no. Could he really become enemies with the Freedom Alliance? Who can be an opponent of the Freedom Alliance in the continent right now? Yun Xiao and Yun Luofeng did not dawdle outside of Fengyun City. Without waiting for the guards of the city gate to react, they had charged inside and headed straight for the rest station. Currently, Cheng Feiyong had long since packed his luggage and left with his people. Yun Luofeng searched the entire rest station and only found the palace maid, Xiao, who was unconscious due to her serious injury. In order to learn what in the world happened inside Fengyun City, she fed a spirit herb to Xiao. Xiao slowly woke up. Her mind was still dazed when she heard Yun Luofeng's wicked voice. Do you know where Princess Jinyang of the Jinyang Kingdom went? Princess. Xiao started briefly, and then panic flooded her face. Her Highness the Princess was taken by that woman from the Freedom Alliance. Although she had been injured by Cheng Feiyong earlier, she still saw a woman appear in her semi-conscious state and take Princess Jinyang away. His Majesty referred to that woman as a member of the Freedom Alliance. Yun Xiao, Jinyang warned me, so I must rescue her no matter what. Yun Luo Feng looked up. Moreover, the Freedom Alliance had harmed my mother. Chapter 1996. Yun Luo Feng was tricked too. Yun Xiao tightly held the woman in his arms. I will support you no matter what you decide to do. Good. Then I will have Qi Su and Qi Ling both start making preparations. I want to launch a war against the Freedom Alliance. Yun Luo Feng's face was indifferent, her black eyes containing killing intent. The Freedom Alliance no longer had a reason to continue existing. Qi Su and Bai Ling had rushed over from Forest of Heaven's trial and quickly arrived. Prince Cheng Li from the Jinyang Kingdom was thoroughly hurt by his imperial father's actions, so he naturally did not dare to return to the Jinyang Kingdom and chose to stand behind Qi Ling. Yun Luo Feng told Qi Su and Qi Ling to go back and make preparations and asked Qi Ling for the precise location of the forbidden grounds that he mentioned earlier, planning to head there with Yun Xiao. Bai Ling knew about the danger behind the forbidden grounds, so her heart instantly filled with worry. However, Yun Luo Feng did not listen to her objection and insisted on going, so she could only helplessly sigh. The forbidden grounds were actually behind the city lord's estate, and it was because of the forbidden grounds that no one lived inside the city lord's estate. The second she entered the city lord's estate, she could feel a heavy and repressive aura, causing her to have difficulty breathing. Thankfully, God's code space dispelled the heavy aura for her in time. Yun Xiao silently and motionlessly stood behind Yun Luo Feng the whole time. His handsome and cold face did not change, and his dark eyes similar to a falcon's, sharp and calm. Yun Xiao, this place is probably called the Forbidden Grounds because it is where the core of the Fengyun continent is. Moreover, we only know how to enter the Fengyun continent, but we don't know how to leave. Perhaps we can discover something here. After saying this, Yun Luo Feng entered the city lord's estate. It did not take them long to reach the peak of the mountain behind the estate. There were streaks of purple lightning gathered in the sky above the mountain, as though the group of lightning would immediately come down if someone dared to step inside the forbidden grounds and turn the invader into ash. Yun Yi, Yun Luo Feng lightly called. Yun Yi's figure instantly appeared in front of Yun Luo Feng and walked forward. Boom. When Yun Yi stepped forward, a strike of lightning would shoot down, ruthlessly landing on Yun Yi. Yun Yi released a sound of pleasure and continued walking forward. Yun Luo Feng's eyes narrowed as she watched the heavenly lightning in the sky. It appears my guess was right. For each bolt of lightning that descends from the sky, a bolt of lightning will disappear. The heavenly lightning hitting Yun Yi right now isn't too strong yet, but each strike of lightning will be more powerful than the one before. No wonder they did not discover the heavenly lightning until they were midway there. It turned out it was not because the path did not have heavenly lightning. It was because someone had already tread this way, so the heavenly lightning struck down already and it did not regenerate. This was why Yun Luo Feng came to a conclusion. The heavenly lightning was man-made. Someone purposefully put it up there, causing the amount of heavenly lightning bolts to be limited in number. However, just how formidable was the expert who could create heavenly lightning? And what was he protecting inside the forbidden grounds? For every step that Yun Yi took, a bolt of lightning fell. However, it was as though Yun Yi did not feel anything and continued walking forward. Yun Luo Feng and Yun Xiao closely followed him. Suddenly, Yun Yi halted. Confused, Yun Luo Feng discovered a tremendous power exploding out of him. Chapter 1997. Yun Luo Feng was tricked 3. Reverent God level. Under the heavenly lightning's attacks, Yun Yi broke through to Reverent God level. This was an absolutely unexpected surprise. Yun Yi did not linger after breaking through and continued walking forward again. This time, he did not continue breaking through and was still at Reverent God level after reaching the end. However, Yun Luo Feng believed that the heavenly lightning created from her breaking through to Reverent God level would certainly allow Yun Yi to reach Monarch God level. After the heavenly lightning passed, a peaceful utopia of peach trees entered their sight. Countless peach blossoms fell from the trees, painting an exceptionally beautiful picture. A small wooden house sat in the middle of the peach trees, standing out in this scene. After seeing this, Yun Luo Feng was startled. Could it be that all that heavenly lightning was meant to protect was solely this small wooden house? Let's enter and take a look, Yun Xiao said after a moment of silence. Yun Luo Feng nodded, and they entered the wooden house. The wooden house was very ordinary without a single distinguishing feature. Pen and paper laid on a wooden table, having turned dark yellow from years of evident disuse. Young Luo Feng casually picked up a book and flipped through it. She was shocked to discover that the origin of this whole world was written in this book. This world did not merely refer to the Fengyun continent and the seven-province continent, it also included all the continents to make an entire world. However, young Luo Feng placed it down after a rough skim and picked up another book. This book was a diary written by a person named Kang Ji. She was originally only going to take a quick look, but when she saw the next page, she was shocked. This old man had spent his life researching medicine and later discovered a precious book called Medical God's Code. A space exists inside this precious book. However, this book's requirement for the constitution of the person is too high and only an incorporeal body type can inherit this space. This old man observed the night sky and discovered that a person with an incorporeal body type would not appear on this continent, so due to his fondness of talent, this old man sent the medical god's code to another space. This old man thinks that space is called Hua Xia. Young Luo Feng's hold on the diary trembled. It turned out the medical god's code did not coincidentally appear in Hua Xia. It appeared with the help of Kang Ji. Unfortunate, although a person with an incorporeal body type is extremely talented, their love life would be very tragic. Because of her constitution, she can only mate with a corporeal body type person. If she falls in love with a different type of man, it not only would completely destroy her cultivation, but she would also not have a good end. Reading to here, young Luo Feng turned to look at Yun Xiao with a smile. She was lucky to have met Yun Xiao. Otherwise, it would truly be as Kang Ji said, she would not be able to mate with other men. She turned back and continued reading. However, even if an incorporeal body type and a corporeal body type copulated together, they would be unable to get pregnant unless they have a special element. The hand holding the book froze. She had known Yun Xiao for more than 10 years and they had sex for several years, but she still had not gotten pregnant. She had checked Yun Xiao in her body already and did not discover any problems. Since there was no problem, then she would let nature take its course. She did not expect there to be a reason behind it. Thankfully, this old man treasures prodigies, so this old man naturally can't bear to see such good genetics be wasted. Hence, this old man has used everything he learned in his life to invent a medicinal bed. As long as they mate on this medicinal bed, they can become pregnant in no time. Chapter 1998. Young Luo Feng was tricked 4. Of course, this medicinal bed isn't enough. This old man also put all of his power inside this bead. As long as an incorporeal body type keeps this bead inside of them and mates with a corporeal body type at the same time, not only can they grow stronger but they can also get pregnant. It's such a good thing, what else are you waiting for? Young Luo Feng slightly narrowed her eyes. When she saw this last sentence, why did she feel like Kang Ji knew she would show up? Without much surprise, the last page of this diary verified young Luo Feng's guess. However, this old man has exhausted his mind and spirit for this bead, and this old man doesn't have long to live. To prevent people from disturbing his peace, this old man molded a medicinal coffin for himself already, and it's placed inside the room of this wooden house together with the medicinal bed. This old man also forged heavenly lightning. Young Luo Feng's eyes sparkled. The heavenly lightning was forged by Kang Ji. Just how strong was he previously? Of course, only people with the corporeal and incorporeal body type can safely pass through the heavenly lightning. Although they will be heavily injured, they will live through it. What Kang Ji did not expect was for young Luo Feng to encounter Wechen and learn the puppet technique. This was how she was able to pass through the heavenly lightning without a single lick of damage. This old man hoped the person with the incorporeal body type who sees this diary will believe him. This old man was once the most virtuous person, so there is no way that this old man would lie. The corner of young Luo Feng's lips could not help but twitch. Why did she feel like this person was very unreliable? However, young Luo Feng looked at the bead on the table and then glanced at the half-opened room door. She was silent for a moment before picking up the red bead and placing it in front of Yun Xiao. See if there's anything wrong with this bead. Yun Xiao picked up the heavy bead. It took a while before he said, there is, indeed, a very formidable power inside, and this power could be directly absorbed without causing any harm. So Kang Ji was not lying to me. Young Luo Feng raised her brows. I'm suddenly very curious about what kind of person Kang Ji was. Yuan Shao grew quiet. His portrait hangs on the wall. From the start, young Luo Feng's gaze had been focused on the books on the table and did not notice there was a portrait on the wall at all. Hearing Yuan Shao's words and seeing the restraint of laughter on his face, young Luo Feng could not suppress her curiosity and looked over. How should she say this? The person in the portrait was different from her imagination. Kang Ji addressed himself as an old man over and over again in his diary, so anyone would associate him with a white-haired old man. However, the portrait featured a handsome and adorable youth with a fresh and pure look. His large, innocent eyes contained an indescribable alluring quality. His faint pink lips were slightly turned up, as though he wanted to recount something. Of course, young Luo Feng believed that this guy absolutely had a youthful appearance and an elderly heart. What rendered her incredibly speechless was the paragraph written underneath the portrait. The paragraph was undoubtedly complimenting the youth in the portrait. For example, the world's most virtuous person, Kang Ji, the world's most handsome man, Kang Ji, and also the dream lover of thousands of women. If someone saw these words by itself, they would certainly think the painter of the portrait was madly infatuated with Kang Ji. However, young Luo Feng saw the signature at the bottom left corner of the portrait. It read, "Penned by Kang Ji." Chapter 1999, Young Luo Feng was tricked 5. In other words, whether it was the portrait or the paragraph, they were both completed by Kang Ji himself. No wonder Yuan Shao would reveal that type of expression just now. Kang Ji's narcissism truly surpassed all others of its kind before and since. No one could compare. Yuan Shao. Young Luo Feng facepalmed before turning to look at Yuan Shao. She recalled Kang Ji's diary, and her eyes shifted. How about we test it out here? Yuan Shao nodded and agreed without any hesitation. All right. His answer was accompanied by an arm reaching out and pulling her into his embrace. She looked up, and her eyes clashed into his eyes, which were filled with deep love and warmth. The man-princess carried her and walked toward the room with large strides. A medicinal fragrance drifted into their nose, making Yuan Luo Feng feel refreshed. Yuan Shao was very careful in his movements. He gently placed her on the bed, as though afraid he would hurt her if he was the slightest bit forceful. Quickly, their clothes messily scattered on the ground. Yuan Shao lightly bit Yuan Luo Feng's lips, his eyes containing an endless pool of tenderness. Inside this tiny room, besides the bed, there was also a coffin placed inside. Yuan Luo Feng kept the red bead in her mouth and could feel a formidable power coursing through her with each up and down movement of Yuan Shao. The spiritual energy inside of her would also rapidly fill up. The two of them were lost in their pleasure and their eyes contained only each other. No one discovered a transparent light flying out of the medicinal coffin and shooting inside Yuan Luo Feng's tummy. In the end, Yuan Luo Feng and Yuan Shao were tricked by Kang Ji. This was also the first time that someone successfully tricked Yuan Luo Feng. After Yuan Luo Feng discovered the truth, the miserable fate of Kang Ji does not need to be described. In truth, from the fact that Kang Ji was able to trick Yuan Luo Feng into coming to this place, it could be deduced that Kang Ji would not let this opportunity slip away. What a joke! The child of an incorporeal and a corporeal body type, how much of a genius would they be? They would certainly assimilate the advantages of both of them. So how could he give such an excellent opportunity to someone else? Absolutely implausible. He could only give this opportunity to himself. At that time, when he's their child, wouldn't the beauties in this world come running into his arms? There was nothing more satisfying than having the power of the world in your hands and lying intoxicated at the knees of beautiful women. As for that red bead, it was a portion of his power indeed. After all, the incorporeal body type was his mother, so wasn't it logical for him to raise his mother's strength? He could only tyrannize the continent in the future if his mother was powerful enough. Otherwise, who would back him up? Yuan Luo Feng and Yuan Shao did not notice the transparent light entering her, nor did they see the bead inside Yuan Luo Feng's mouth become brighter. Yuan Luo Feng only felt her body growing heavier, as though something entered her body. Their battle this time lasted 1 day and 1 night. They did not stop to rest until the next day, drenched in sweat. At the same time, Yuan Luo Feng broke through. The heavenly lightning produced when she broke through to reverent god level was more powerful. Yuan Luo Feng released Yuan Yi again to have him absorb those bolts of heavenly lightning. Also, with Yun Yi's protection, not a single bolt of lightning could approach Yun Luo Feng. What was even more lacking in integrity was that the two people on the bed ignored the heavenly lightning and also ignored the Yun Yi battling with the heavenly lightning and started another round of exercise. While Yun Luo Feng and Yun Xiao were exercising inside this small wooden house, Qi Su and Mu Shuexin returned to the Luo Feng kingdom and Qi Ling returned to the Tianqi kingdom. Chapter 2000. Yun Luo Feng was tricked. 6. What awaited him inside the Tianqi kingdom was a harsh round of interrogation. The atmosphere inside the imperial study was heavy. The emperor sat on his imperial throne while noble consort Lin stood beside him. Qi Ling and Qi Yu were below them. Qi Ling, I heard that you obtained 3 jade seals during the Four Kingdom tournament this time. The emperor openly asked, getting right to the point. Your third imperial brother is the leader of the Four Kingdoms prophesied by the state preceptor. It's useless for you to possess the jade seals, you should give them to your third imperial brother instead. After saying this, the emperor gave Qi Yu a look. Why aren't you going to retrieve the jade seals already? Yes, imperial father. Joy entered Qi Yu's heart and he gleefully walked towards Qi Ling. Qi Ling, so what if you obtain 3 jade seals? In the end, don't you still have to hand them to me? Second imperial brother, why aren't you handing the jade seals over already? Could it be that you want me to search your body? Qi Ling's figure was straight as a ramrod. Everyone knows who the winner of the Four Kingdom tournament is. You repeatedly claim that third imperial brother will be the leader of the Four Kingdoms, so why didn't he obtain first place? The emperor frowned, clear impatience seeping out of his eyes. Jen merely wants you both to walk fewer detours. Don't you know how powerful the state preceptor's abilities are? How could his words be false? So what if you can make the Four Kingdoms listen to you right now? You still have to return it to your brother eventually. Wouldn't it be better to give him this power from the start? More importantly, Qi Yu was much more obedient than Qi Ling. If he really allowed Qi Ling to become the ruler of the Four Kingdoms, he was afraid that even he would have to do as he said despite being his father. The emperor did not wish for this to happen no matter what. The state preceptor said this. Qi Ling glanced at the emperor. Then this only shows that the state preceptor has problematic eyesight. That's why he would think a trash like Qi Yu can rule the Four Kingdoms. What impudence! Hearing his response, the emperor's face drastically transformed and he angrily shouted, you dare to disobey Zhen's orders already. When you become the ruler of the Four Kingdoms, wouldn't you completely disregard Zhen? Zhen is telling you, you are handing the jade seals over whether you want to or not. Immediately hand it over. A sneer turned up on Qi Ling's mouth. He was about to say something when the door of the study was abruptly pushed open. A man in white stepped through the doorway. This man was unrealistically pretty. When he walked, people could vaguely see an immortal mist behind him. He held a jade flute in his hands, and his steps were light and barely discernible. The kingdom's civil and martial ministers all trailed in after the man. They clearly heard everything that was spoken inside the study just now. If Yun Luo Feng was here, she would be able to immediately discern that this man was the one playing a song in the forest previously. He was Wechin's reincarnation. State preceptor. Seeing the man's appearance, the emperor immediately stood up. I still remember you once said Zhen's third imperial son will rule the Four Kingdoms in the future. Zhen clearly remembers this. The man faintly smiled. His smile was beautiful beyond this world. The prettiest color in this world could not compare to this smile of his. However, his smile was different from Ji Judian's egotistical smile, and Chen Yuqing's gentle smile, nor was it like Yun Xiao's deeply loving smile. A coolness emanated from his smile, making people's heart ache. I did indeed say that. The emperor relaxed, but before he could say anything, the man spoke again, however, I was teasing you. Didn't you realize?